It is 5 o'clock. I will take roll for the meeting. Commissioner Cowan,
Present.
Commissioner Galansky Pisania,
Present.
Commissioner Munguia, Commissioner Cowan, Commissioner Gowan,
Present.
Commissioner Neese,
I'm here.
Mayor Mendez,
Present.
and we're missing Commissioner Tetro. She's trying to log on right now. Okay, I will go ahead and read the call. Notice of a special meeting of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, teleconference open meeting pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5, Section 551.041 of the Texas Government Code. The Texas Open Meetings Act notice is hereby given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville will conduct a special meeting on Tuesday, April 14, 2020 at 5 p.m. via WebEx teleconferencing meeting by logging on at https://brownsville.webex.com/brownsville/j.php?mtid equals MC608E-3E0ACC097B8E89D0E710-489-144. Our meeting number is 269-204-998. At this time, we call the meeting to order. Everyone is present with the exception of Commissioner Tetro at this time. If Pastor Brad Burks, would you please do the invocation?
Yes. Let's pray. Father God, we thank you for your love, your grace, and your mercy. And Lord, during this time when we're at home, when we are social distancing, Lord, we ask you to draw each one of us closer to you. Help us to remember to reach out with your love, Lord, through the phone, through social media, through text messages, to people who need the encouragement. And Lord God, we lift up our leaders to you tonight, from our president and the entire coronavirus task force, to our Congress, to our governor, our county judge, and here specifically tonight, we ask you to lead and guide our mayor and our city commissioners. Lord, we ask you for a quick end to this virus, but tonight we ask you for wisdom for our leaders, to lead and guide and direct us, and for every person who presents anything in this meeting. In the name of your precious Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Next on the agenda, we have a public comment period. No one did sign up for the public comment, so we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is agenda item number 1, discussion regarding the City of Brownsville response to the urgent public necessity concerning COVID-19, otherwise known as the coronavirus, including but not limited to: letter A, continuity plan with city staffing, facilities and services, including actions and continuity of such operations; letter B, financial update, emergency procurement; and letter C, drive-through collections testing site update.
Good evening, Mayor, Commission. I'll kick off with the update for the organization. The highlight for this past week for us was midweek. We had our first positive employee test, and that led to us making some changes and some adjustments that are already part of our planning for the City Plaza departments that were impacted. Those include City Secretary's Office, Planning, Municipal Court, Public Health, Parks Administration. Basically, what we did is a lot of the immediate activity was about cleaning the facility, deep cleaning the facility, making sure that we were being extremely cautious about having anyone re-enter the facility. We also we had contemplated closing the facility. The traffic was very limited. Most had been shifted to drive-thru prior to the incident. That was then shut completely after that. Some staff continue working on special projects that can be done without public contact, with others are fully drive-thru. In addition, I'll allow for R and Odie to provide an update on some of the testing results that continue for our employees. And we've also spent a lot of the time this past week preparing for the financial update. That should be made available to the Commission via a memo tomorrow. That has been worked on by finance and convention of the city manager's office. Some of those numbers we have provided to the Herald, some questions we received last week, but there will be a lot more substance and depth to the analysis in tomorrow's memo. We still have 12% of our employees telecommuting, still providing daily updates to the city commission. We're also making weekly modifications for our departments. That pretty much is the highlight of what's happening. Are there any questions?
I don't believe so. Does anybody have any questions? No? Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Next item will be Lupez on the financial update.
Good evening, Mayor, City Commissioners. While we wait for the PowerPoint presentation,
There you go, Lupe.
it's a similar presentation as we have. We've updated as of April 9th. To the next slide. Expenditure summary, again, broke it up into two sections, what the budget impact is for the department level and emergency procurements that we've done. Combined of those expenditures, $1,599,000. FEMA plan reimbursement, 75% of this, so it's about $1,200,000. Next slide, please. The total expenditures on there is broken up into the various categories: personnel, supplies, lease, costs, contracts, and other categories. The majority of it, again, is attributed to personnel costs, $1.3 million. Next slide, please. Breaking down the personnel costs into the different departments that have incurred these expenditures. The majority, again, is by police and fire, and that represent about $1.1 million. We further broke down these costs into two different sections. If you go to another next slide, please. What we did, we broke it down the base pay of the employee, of the police officers, and then hazard duty pay. This is a part of their collective bargaining contract. That's part of that where there's an emergency enacted. They get paid a time and a half. Total base pay and combined hazard pay combined to the totals right there for police is $894,000. For the police, for the fire department, $280,000. These items we are going to be submitting these to FEMA for reimbursement. FEMA does allow for these types of expenditures, especially if there were pre-incident cause, or basically if they were in the contract before the incident happened. They were in the contract, and we're going to submit for reimbursement on these, and we do feel that these are going to be reimbursed at 75% level. Next page, please. On the emergency procurement, they still have the same two items, PPE masks and the drive-through collection testing. On the PPE mask, clarification on this one, even though we do show that it's been spent, only 50% of the order has actually come in. The other 50% due to delays in the ordering of these items have not been delivered, or about 3,500. The reason that the expense is because the vendor demands payment upon delivery. The check is still at the finance department, has not been released, so it's just ready. So whenever it does get delivered, the vendor gets compensated due to the terms of the sale conditions. The second item on there is a drive-through collection test site, billing actual for 12 days. Operational costs for medical staff, $18,600. testing kits. These testing kits are related to uninsured patients that the city is going to be paying for at $110 each, or $43,010. Next, that concludes the presentations. Do you have any questions regarding these costs?
Lupe, yes, I do. I have some questions. The first one I was going to ask was whether you had checked on these expenses as to whether they were reimbursable by FEMA. You stated you had, so you're confident that these expenses will be reimbursed to that percentage?
I am confident in it. There's
As to whether they
guidelines
were
that we
reimbursable by
went by,
FEMA, you stated you
and
had.
we are confident that they will be reimbursed.
Okay. And then second, you broke down the police and fire expenses between base pay and hazard pay. Hazard is time and a half. Am I correct on that?
That is correct.
Okay. And when does that kick in? So how can we differentiate what's hazard or when hazard kicks in as opposed to base?
Actually, that is the base pay is the time. The hazard pay is the halftime. Or if you combine them together, it's time and a half. And that already, I believe, got initiated on the declaration by both fire chiefs sometime in March, mid-March, somewhere.
Right. That's been within the last couple of weeks. I think there was about a week difference in when the declarations were made. But what I'm trying to figure out is what kicks in hazard or what's considered hazard. Because you differentiated between base. For example, on PD, base was 596 and hazard was 297. Is that just an even one half of what the hazard is? That's the way it looks? So
basically, the combined amount equates to their time and a half.
I got it. Okay. I got it. So in other words, the base pay was 596, but the hazard pay adds an additional one half to that. So
Yes,
that's
50%.
97. Okay, but that doesn't show overtime, does it? Or is overtime included in here?
Overtime is included on there.
Okay. Very good. And what would these expenses have been? In other words, had we not been in the situation we're in now, do we know what the actual pay would have been?
If the declaration, because of contract terms, if the declaration had not been enacted, the total amount cost would only be the base pay. We would have to pay the additional halftime.
Okay. So the additional here is only the hazard part. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you very much. Anybody else have questions?
Just to clarify, the additional amount is a hazard pay because of the contract terms that we have, but all of it is eligible to be reimbursed at 75%.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm next.
Next, we have the drive-through collections testing site update.
Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. The COVID-19 drive-through testing site, the presentation tonight is based on the running totals as of April 13th, 2020. And this is counting from day one. We have 1,020 tests administered. The breakdown for those is 56% of those tests were with insurance. 43% of those were with no insurance. 2,318 questionnaires have been reviewed that did not meet criteria. In addition, so far the drive-through contractor has reported 61 positive and 900 negative results to the Cameron County Health Department. At this time, we have 59 tests pending, and that turnaround is usually between 24 and 72 hours. That's the report for tonight. Thank you.
Do we have a number, or do we have the ability to track how many have been done per day? Do you have that presentation available, or do you just have the cumulative numbers?
No, I have both. The ones you get every night through the EOC update are my daily drive-thrus.
Right.
And every week, what I'll be presenting to you are my cumulative numbers.
Right, but you don't have a chart that, let's say, that tracks kind of like in a graph the amount that's happening every day, so we can see whether it's starting to level off. I know it's starting to level off, but I just wanted to see if you had anything visual for that.
I can actually generate those, and with my next report, I can have it attached to the report that Odie sends every night.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
So I have a question, Dr. Rodriguez. Is there any way that the city is able to switch over to the testing that is done through blood and is the 15-minute test? I've been reading almost everything that comes out in regards to COVID-19. And one of the things that I read that was very alarming is the lab in Harlingen had to send all of the reagent material they had to a lab in Austin because of the capacity not being able to sustain itself. And I was just wondering if there was any way that our testing site could switch in the near future to the type where people would know within 15 minutes if they have it or not.
So to answer your question, the 15-minute test that you mentioned is called an IgM test. It's one that doesn't test for COVID virus, but it's one that tests for antibodies, the presence of what's antibodies is what occurs after someone has been exposed to the virus. So that test is measuring for the amount of antibodies that's present in a person. That is called an IgG. The other part of the test is called an IgM. That basically tells you if someone is currently experiencing an acute onset of the COVID virus. The reason that that's not used as a primary is that's considered a secondary method. And the PCR test is considered what CDC recommends as a primary method. Now, I will say that just today, the FDA announced, not today, on Saturday, announced many new technologies coming on board. Just one that I'm looking at is a saliva-driven test that can be done very much the same way that we're doing the drive-through. At this point, the PCR test is the gold standard. The 15-minute test is considered as a secondary test, and for that reason, we're trying to adhere to the recommendations of the CDC. I will say that we are working on getting IgG and IgM tests for other purposes at this time. And to your point, there has been some conversations about the reagents that the labs use potentially coming in short supply. But it is my understanding in talking to some other health directors that a lot of the big labs are now cooking their own reagents in-house. And I'm using the word cooking in a very slang term. They're basically bringing in all the raw materials and they're putting them together to get the reagents that they normally would have bought commercially. Right?
Okay.
I hope that answers that question.
Yes. And then my last question is, I've seen that there are 2,318 questionnaires that were reviewed that did not meet criteria. Now, I'm not a doctor, but I am a mom. And I know that maybe some of these people submitted their applications and didn't have the onset of maybe other symptoms at the time when they filled theirs out. I'm just wondering if there's any way that if any of those 2,300 people are still out there and still experiencing symptoms and still have not been able to be tested and don't have the resources to go to a doctor or don't have a doctor that's available right now. I know a lot of people are doing the telemedicine. So my concern would just be that I really, really hope there are not people out there in Brownsville who just have not had access to a test and we're overlooked by our standards.
Commissioner, let me answer this question in a very positive way. So that a test is a picture in time. So if someone potentially may have submitted a request 10 days ago, and maybe not even 10 days ago, 3 days ago, and 3 days later they have symptoms, they can go back and restart the process and apply again. And these cases are reviewed every day by medical professionals. And if they meet that criteria, they may not have met it on day one, but maybe on day 3 or day 4, they do meet it. So it's a good question because we get to share that with the public. Once you're turned down, it doesn't mean you won't possibly meet the criteria the next time you go through the portal. Does that answer the question satisfactorily?
For the middle of January.
Point that I would, and I think Art answered all of that very, very well. But the other thing I would add to that is the 900 negatives doesn't mean that they are not going to get COVID next week or 2 weeks from now. So folks does not mean that they should not still be looking for symptoms to then contact either this test site or their doctors or the hospital if they do continue with their symptoms or their symptoms increase.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Next agenda item, consideration and action on resolution number 2020-033, authorizing the city manager of the city of Brownsville to modify and update voluntary sick leave pool and bank policy and the negative sick leave bank policy pursuant to the creation of these policies by the city commission.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioner. This is Perla Cepeda, the HR Director. This resolution intends to request the Commissioners and Mayor permission to grant the City Manager authority to update and modify the sick pool and bank policy and advance negative sick leave policy. This is an effort to assist city employees who don't have sufficient leave balances, especially new employees who have not had the opportunity to accrue significant leave, so who will otherwise be required to take leave without pay. This resolution is in response to the current situation that we are experiencing, in which is very fluid, and will provide flexibility, keeping the best interest in the organization, the City of Brownsville, and also the citizens and the employees that are working for us.
Do we have any motions?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Oh, I have a question. So they haven't submitted to us the proposed resolution. Does that mean you're going to put one together and come back with the policies that you're talking about? Mr.
Commissioner,
Bernal?
excuse me, Commissioner Neese, it was emailed to you all earlier today.
Oh, okay, so, all right, a little more notice would help. I didn't get a chance to review it. So then you already have the policy ready to go. Does it include anything that's mandatory for anyone to give up part of their pool?
Yes, that's correct.
So it's strictly voluntary?
Yes, it's strictly voluntary.
Okay.
We had a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any more questions? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
There being no further business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Bye, guys. Stay safe.